boys look as if he's just come straight away for the Green Brigade.
Aye, with a meeting at 6:30, mate.
Yes, son, we're back with a Celtic Unrestricted View. My name is Ryan Clifford. Join me in this guest episode of JP. Well, if you're watching on YouTube and the live stream, you'll see who we have in front of us. It's Celtic player Paul Byrne. Paul, fantastic to have you back on, mate. How are you? Hope you're well.
Listen, it's great to be back with you boys. It was a great interview the last time, and it looks like you have swapped over there. Is my mince pies gone? Have you swapped over? You did change room, JP.
Yeah, we swapped over, mate. We had a wee moment of madness there, so we swapped over.
You didn't trust his driving, no?
No, it's like a white knuckle ride with me, mate. So that's how I've let him take your reins tonight.
Well, good to be back.
Good to see you, mate. For everybody that's tuning in with us now, I've actually got a very famous clip of Paul for us, and here we are. For any younger ones who don't remember Paul, this is what Paul was all about when he was Celtic.
Gray. Good play again by Collins. The angle ball, the right across, the chance is on for the equaliser, and Celtic have equalised. It's Paul Byrne. The goal's been threatened from the start of the second half.
Ryan, I don't know about you, mate, but I don't think you'll see many finishes at that over at Ibrox, mate. Paul, talk us through that moment, that actual moment, mate. Obviously, when John Collins picks up the ball, did you have any idea at all that ball was getting floated to you?
Well, if you look back at, I think it was a couple of games before that, it was actually Ibrox in the opposite end, and it was something very, very similar. John Collins, same angle, sent it across, and I hear it on the volley, and I scuffed it about 3 or 4 yards wide. And it's a little bit ironic then, a couple of games later at the same venue, John Collins cuts inside and plays it over, and I've hit it on the volley and it's gone in. You know what they say? You could hit it once, so you could hit it 10 times and you hit the corner flag, but you could just hit one sweet and it goes in. And it was the day that I hit the sweet and it went straight in, and it's a magic feeling. Just that, and then you got the Celtic fans just about 10 feet away from you, gone berserk. It's one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life, and it changed my life, to be honest.
You had that with the outside of your foot as well, didn't you? So you caught it sweetly.
Yeah, when you got my talent, you can do anything you want.
I was just slowly building up to that, Paul. I was just kind of getting there with you with that one.
Not all the viewers will agree with that.
No, I was slowly getting there, Ryan, with that one. But Ryan, I've got to say, that's a sweet strike, mate, and it's one of the kind of ones. As soon as you connect with it, you know where it's actually going. But to get not just the power behind it, but I think the accuracy come from Paul has helped with obviously John Collins' delivery as well, because it's a superb delivery, mate.
Oh, definitely. And obviously Paul's played with some excellent players, and John Collins being one of them. Some of the Celtic fans, John Collins, a wee bit of stick through his time at Celtic when he was a manager, a coach. But for me, Collins will always be a fantastic player, fantastic body, shall I say, as well. So the guy was class for Celtic, and obviously the pass to Paul's finish was, there's not much you can say about it, mate. It was different gravy. Yeah. And for me, I think Paul, for guys like yourself who have played against Rangers, even scored, that's, for us Celtic fans, that's an absolute dream come true. So see, after that game, like he says it kind of changed your life, obviously a bit more spotlight on top of you. How was it kind of about the streets, even past that goal, even before it, obviously, you would notice, but see, after it for a while, was it a lot more attention to yourself after that goal?
Yeah, it's, even today, it's nearly 30 years on, and today, I go to Spain, or I go to America, or Australia, or Thailand with the Celtic legends, or Philadelphia, and Celtic fans are so special, and they're all over the world. And no matter where you go, no matter what bar you go to, or what restaurant, or what street you're walking down, you'll always find one person walking down the street with a Celtic top on that'll recognise you and stop to talk to you. And it's the best feeling in the world, because as I said to you before, it's a magnificent club. The supporters are absolutely second to none. Unfortunately, as I said to you before, at the time that I was there, it was like someone was at the throwing a grenade in there and going off, because it was just, as I said, as a selfish point of view the last time, it was great for me. All the joy I had, played 8 times against Rangers, 2 man of the matches, 2 goals. And but I think there was a little bit more to me game, more so than just the Rangers games. When I first went there, as I said to you before, I didn't think for 1 minute I was going to get into the first team. And when I got there and I got myself fit and I started playing a couple of games, the belief kicked in. And we had some special players. We had a great team, but no one can deny this. And I've said it many times before. There was a lot of players coming to the end in that team. And then you had the likes of myself and Brian McLaughlin, Simon Donnelly, Stuart Gray, Brian O'Neill, all trying to carry the problems of Celtic Football Club on such young shoulders. And we weren't successful, and you're scrutinised and everything that you do on and off the field, which is rightly so, because Celtic fans do pay their honest money, and they should have their opinion. They're buying season tickets every year. The stadium is full every week, and they have their right and they have their opinion. I think, as I said, it's only after I stopped playing for Celtic that people actually realised, let's be fair on this guy. He's come in the Fergus McCann era. We didn't know whether we were coming or going, and I was playing regularly in the first team. And as I said, you're scrutinised as a Celtic player anyway. But if you're on the pitch and you're not winning trophies or league titles, and across the road is winning everything, and the stick is going to be more, and people are going to notice the smaller things more, if you know what I mean, on and off the field. And I think that's what happened with me. But as I said to you before, I knew my time was coming to the end after the Scottish Cup. I knew the club was going to go forward after that. I could have sat on the bench and collected, X, Y, and Z amount of money. That's not me. And I really, really honestly think if I had got my head around staying at Celtic Football Club, I probably would have been, if not better or as equal as Simon Donnelly, not taking anything away from Sid, but I had a fair amount of ability, and I had been playing with John Hartson and Larson and Sutton and these boys, me whipping the ball into the box. I'm sure them boys would have scored some goals too.
Especially Larson, because he was always known for his aerial ability as well as what he could do on the floor. But yeah, you certainly did have a good cross on you, Paul. I'll give you that. And you weren't the slowest either, mate. You did have a turn of, you had a fair turn of speed. But I remember anyway, I was only a young boy when you were there, so I'm 39 now. So, but I do vividly remember you. So, a good memory, as you say. Some really good players you came in with. Brian McLaughlin, like Brian O'Neill. He ended up going over to Germany and playing his football. Obviously, Stuart Gray. That's a flash for the pan, that, mate. That's a real flash for the past, that as well. A lot of Celtic fans will probably, like say Ryan, he's just a pup, Paul. So he's no had the privilege of watching like you guys. When I grew up, people ask me, who's your favourite Celtic player? And I think most people that speak to me about that is expecting me to say Henrik Larsson, but my favourite Celtic player of all time is Paul McStay.
Look, and I had the honour to play with Paul. He was a great captain, and he could make you feel 10 foot tall before you go on that pitch. And talking to you, Peter Grant, even Peter was very, very good to me too. He'd sit you down before games, he'd wind up matching and stuff. But when it come to the crunch, they were always there to help you. But my claim to fame is I always have this with John Hartson when we're doing talks, after dinner talks and Q&As and stuff like that. It's like, people say, Burnsy, what was it like to score that goal against Rangers? And I'd say, which one?
Yeah.
As a frozen.
He's about. I got two. But the other story is about John had to say, "Oh well, you're only 11 behind me because I got 13." So we put that banter back and forwards. But my claim to fame is that, you know, when you have Jimmy Johnson wearing number 7, you've Dalglish wearing number 7, you've got Henrik Larsson wearing number 7, and then Paul Byrne wearing number 7. So it's not many people that would be able to put their name in that bracket.
No, definitely, and he's among really good company, Ryan, as well, isn't he?
Let's be fair, number 7's probably the biggest Celtic jersey ever to be worn. So, like Paul says, no matter.
Well, it was when I was there because it was an extra large.
like Paul says,
you want it that big? Come on, don't give it that. You want it that big?
You want to tell the jungle? You want to tell the jungle that?
You were kind of what was it? My dad used to say you were kind of well fed.
Yeah, it was like what was it? What was it? They used to sing. He's fat, he's round, his arse is on the ground. Paul Byrne.
Jesus.
When the ball hits the net like the speed of a jet, it's Burnsy.
I just hope the Green Brigade aren't watching that in the next game at home. We're going to hear that song being sung loud and proud for an off curve.
Oh.
That's the sort of thing. Look, you take the good with the bad, boys.
No, but obviously, like you said, JP, that number 7's an absolute iconic jersey.
Yes.
No matter what you do, no matter what fans' opinions can be to Paul, we'll never take that away from him. He wore the number 7 jersey, and people might, let's be fair, Paul, people like myself, I only actually realised that when I watched a few clips because I knew I was talking to you again, and I didn't know you were number 7. So so for me, like JP says, I'm only 29, so I don't know. I've never really seen Paul McStay play, never seen you playing, guys like really John Collins playing, so I've been lucky in the sense that I've seen guys who this era, for me, like Larsson, Hartson, but I'm guessing some of the guys in your team is probably guys like JP says, who they looked up to. Like I looked up to Larsson, Petrov, Thompson, etc. But I'm guessing JP, guys like Paul, John Collins, I think McAvenny, guys like that would have been guys for you.
Charlie Nicholas, Frank McAvenny, Gary Gillespie, Tom Boyd, you know.
Just before that, Ryan, I seen Paul Elliott, Roy Aitken, you know, guys of that era. I seen them play.
Mm-hmm.
I was only a kid, but I remember them. I remember my dad taking me to see them. I remember being in the jungle, as Paul says. What an experience that was. If you'd never, if anybody you ask about the jungle will tell you, it just never stopped, man. The noise and I really, when I hear fans and people talking about football, and they talk about football all over the world, nothing compares to Celtic Park. Nothing. Even through the generations, the atmosphere's been absolutely incredible. And as Paul says, if that's what the jungle, and people think, you know, the Green Brigade are massive, you know, they're great, and they've got this new section. The boys now make a lot of, you know, they make a lot of great noise. It's a great atmosphere. But the jungle was also like that as well. The jungle way back then was, everybody that was going to Celtic Park always headed for that bit of the stadium because that's where the party was. That's really well.
That's what Celtic gave me as part of my life, is that, you know, Celtic fans all over the world will always talk about the jungle. I played in front of it. Now, whether half of the jungle agreed that I should be putting the jersey on, or I didn't have the quality to put the jersey on, or whatever it was, but at that particular time, I felt that the club and the team was in a little bit disarray, and I did earn my stripes because in the games that I played in, I thought I'd done okay, and you know, at one stage when I was playing for Celtic, I didn't think I was Celtic class because of what was coming, the feedback that was coming back. But I found my feet a little bit, and then once I think I got a couple of goals against Rangers and a few of the little games after that, I think people thought, you know, well, fair play, he give it his best shot. But as I said to you before, lads, I could have sat there for another year and a half and took what the club owed me, but I didn't. I walked away because I wanted to play football, and I had the respect of the Celtic fans because of the hard-earned cash, and I knew the club was going in the right direction with Tommy Burns after winning the Scottish Cup, and he was bringing the likes of Cadetti in and players like that. And I just thought to myself, but you know what? I've come as far as I'm going to come with Celtic Football Club. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm going to walk away.
And Paul, see, just on that, as you said, obviously we're moving into now, as you moved away from Celtic. At the time when you said you knew pretty early on that you were going to be moving on to pastures new, was that a big range for you to do that? Or were you already prepared mentally in your head for it, or was it really, really hard for you to walk away from that, knowing fine well what the support you were leaving?
Yeah, I had just signed a new contract under Lou McCarry. Liam Brady gave me a contract, so I signed an additional part of my contract with Lou McCarry because I got into the World Cup squad with Jack Charlton in '94, and things were going in the right direction in my career, and I was really happy with it. And I kicked myself today to say that, well, if I had instead, if you know that in the back of your head, if I had instead, and it lives with me for the rest of my life. I'm 51 now in June, and it's still that if. And but I'm not as angry about it anymore. I've made some great friends over the years at Celtic Football Club. Anything that I've needed, I contacted the people that I knew through the club, and it's been there for me. And the Celtic family, and no matter where I go, as I say, they recognise you and they come and talk to you, and that's a great feeling still to have. And I really enjoyed it, to be honest.
I think, JP, the thing that stands out for me anyway, similar to what Paul's saying there, maybe in terms of maybe guys these days, I don't think maybe some guys, maybe youth guys, maybe like before we come on, we spoke about, obviously we'll get into more on the pod, about like maybe youth guys when they get released from Celtic or they need to go, they maybe don't believe in themselves to go and play elsewhere. But Paul had the belief, no, I know I'm good enough to play with Celtic, and if I go elsewhere, I'll prove it elsewhere as well. So I think, JP, I don't know what you feel, but for me anyway, I feel that maybe players back then had a bit more belief in themselves. I don't know if it's because of the wages are higher now, or I don't know, but I think back then guys thought, no, I'm going to prove myself, I should be here. But I think now, JP, again, I'm only talking from maybe what I've seen from my experience, and maybe guys that I played with, maybe myself, I wasn't full of belief in my ability. I might have been all right to maybe some guys, but I wasn't full of belief. But do you think maybe these days, JP, maybe youth guys, because it's handed to them, they've not got that full right, I'm going to go and prove myself, because they get at a young age. But like Paul's obviously grew up in Ireland, let's be fair, Beer grew up in Glasgow, you don't really have everything. That's why you go and play football and you work hard and you try and get a career. Do you think that's one reason why guys like Paul worked hard and I'm proving myself here, but guys these days maybe know as much?
I just think it's a sign of times, Ryan. I really do. I think it's, you look back in the day when we were young, and obviously Paul as well, I really think that, you know, you were meant to graft. So you had to graft for your, you know, earn your keep, as they say. Today's a wee bit different because they don't, I know now, and especially youth level, they don't have the boys like cleaning senior pro boots and stuff like that. And, you know, back when I played, Ryan, you used to have to go and sweep the terracing and wash your manager's motor, and like it was mental stuff you had to do. You had to earn your, you know, like earn your way. Now that's not there. Now it's a bit more luxurious to the individual. And
I think you have to be trained to appreciate what's coming. It's like, you know, it's like me now with a full-time job. People say to me, like, you play for Glasgow Celtic Football Club, why are you working? Why have you got a job now? How come you didn't make all this money? But the money wasn't really around when I played back then. Like it's 30 years ago, and people still think you're well off living off your Celtic money. It's not like that. And when I first went away to Oxford, I told you this before, my first wage packet was £13.50. Talking about sweeping the stands, I was cleaning Robert Maxwell's Rolls Royce. He used to own the club, the fella. He used to own the newspapers down in London and stuff like that. And I remember Dean Saunders, you know, and Peter Rose Brown and Steve Foster's and Davy Langan's, Ray Howe and John Aldridge, cleaning all their boots and getting an extra few pound off and coming home at Christmas. And they're the sort of things that really gave me the foundation to move forward in my career. And, you know, I'd probably one of the first ones to say that I didn't take my career to where it really should have went. I think when I made it so far, I'd become comfortable. When you become comfortable, you become displacent. You get injured, then you get fat, and then you start doing things off the field, and things go away that you just can't bring them back anymore. And I think that a lot of kids nowadays, I think it's right what they're doing today. I think that if they had a bit of a mixture of both, I know they take them on when they're 18 now, they go to college and they have agents and financial people looking after them and giving them X, Y, and Z and invest in this and invest in that. That's all great. But I think what's happening as well in today's game as well, that they make it so far and they've got a couple of million in the bank and they don't care anymore.
Yeah, because they're, like I say, is everything, some of their careers, most of these kids are spoon-fed now, Paul.
Yeah.
You know, they've got it all in front of them. Like, look at Mario Balotelli, right? When he signed for Manchester City, he had all the money, he had thousands of pounds, a couple of £1 million signing on fee. I mean, the guy was doing mental things, like letting off fireworks in his house and in his toilet and setting fire to things outside in his bin and just leaving it and having the fire brigade coming to his house. I mean, just that amount of money just goes, in my opinion, just goes to a young person's head, and they think they're just, you think you're invincible. I mean, you picture what it would be like, Ryan, if you...
JP, I done all that when I had no money.
Aye, yeah, because...
the white jacket people outside the gap.
Well, that's what I'm going to say, but you've got to remember, we grew up in an era, Paul, that that was something to do to pass the time. That was an everyday activity. That was.
I used to sell the fireworks out of the boot of my car down in Oxford.
Aye, turns out they won the girls over somebody else's.
No, Steve Foster's.
But no, Ryan, a lot of players are spoon-fed with a lot of stuff now, especially at these bigger clubs, and when these kids are coming through at Celtic or, teams of that ilk, and I don't want to say bigger clubs because there's not many bigger than Celtic, Ryan, but clubs of a different scale for to give kids a new challenge. We need to dangle that big carrot and more money every week, and tapping a salary and signing on fees, and we'll give you a car and we'll put you up in the house, and us, have you got a girlfriend? That's fine. We'll move her down, and don't worry, we'll get her set up in a job. And if they believe in you that much, these clubs, a lot of clubs bend over backwards for people now. And back when Paul was young, and like say Brian O'Neill and Stuart Gray, and a lot of the boys didn't have that, Ryan. They had to work and graft and really roll their sleeves up and get stuck right in about it. Because you were playing with guys like Paul McStay, John Collins, guys that were ready-made pros who were there and trying to be successful and playing at international level, and these guys are coming in as young boys, and I mean, I would be annoyed at, I would be like, that's Paul McStay, man. Walking out onto the training field to tie your boots up and like Paul McStay's running alongside you. That's unbelievable. I couldn't, honestly, Paul, I don't know what could have been a better privilege, mate. And my next question to you about Paul McStay would have been, how good was he in training? Was he just sublime?
Things didn't change with Paul. How Paul played is how he trained, and how he trained is how he played. Right. He always set himself a standard, and he never dropped below that standard. And I think that's why, he was so gifted of bringing a whole team up to get on his own sometimes, that he had that ability to do that because he was a perfectionist. Probably one of the best pros I've seen in my whole career. And a gentleman, soft-spoken. I don't think I've ever seen Paul angry. He just got that message across so skillfully and made you feel really good. And if you weren't having a good day, he'd pick you up and pat you on the back and say, we'll keep working hard, things will come good. And I always remember him saying to me in the training ground, everything doesn't come together. Your touch might be off today, but don't stop working hard. You might be having the best of games, but don't stop working hard. But when all these things come together, then you're a player. And he always said you have to work at that on the training ground. You see players doing things on a football pitch and Parkhead. That's just not just off the cuff. That's things they're doing in training day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out. And when it comes off, it's the best feeling in the world. It's just like my volley. I could probably hit maybe 20 or 30 of them after training, at Celtic Park, and I could kill 4 crows and knock Fergus McCann's glasses off sitting in the stand or whatever. But that one I hit at Ibrox was sweet and it went in. But I've been practicing that for nearly all my career at Oxford and Arsenal before I went to Celtic. And when something like that comes off, it's an amazing feeling.
A couple of wee comments coming in. One off the YouTube's from I can't Feed the Bear. He's just saying, hail, lads. Good evening, mate. Thanks for joining us. We've got Joe Agnew commenting in, Paul. Hail. I remember Paul playing as hard as nails. Good player. It was a shock when Paul left. A lot of things probably went on behind closed doors, as we were all saying back in the day, probably. Paul, Joe was saying you were very missed, mate, and when you moved on to pastures new as well. So, yeah, nice wee comment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. It's great to hear that, and I appreciate it so much. As I said, a lot of Celtic fans have said the same, and was only after I finished playing, I'd been sort of recognised in what I actually did at Celtic in such a bad time, and we didn't have the quality. Let's be honest about it. At that particular time, and as I say, I kicked myself today to say that, with a year and a half left in my contract, if I had stayed there and got myself fit the way I knew I could get myself and get myself mentally right, as the lad has said, he doesn't know what went down behind closed doors. I would think I was just after that Scottish Cup when Tommy didn't pick me or put me on the bench, it shattered me a little bit. And I think it knocked the wind down my sails in staying at the club. And I made a decision that summer that I was going to move on and try and save some part of my career. But I said to you before in the other interview, when you leave Celtic Football Club, there's only one place you're going is downhill. And that's where I went, to be honest, lads.
See, Paul, like you were saying, obviously there's a lot of rumours about when Celtic get a good player, like Carter Vickers, Jota, Abada, there's always rumours about them leaving and maybe going to guys like Crystal Palace and Leeds. And for me, I know I'm a Celtic fan, maybe a bit biased, but I like to think I'm an expert in football, but you can realise that Celtic are massive. And like you've said, when you go down south, money's brilliant, but when you look back at your career, who did you play with? Crystal Palace, all right. Did you win anything? No. But did you play with Celtic? Did you play with whoever? And I won leagues, I won cups. That for me, Paul, I know money's great and it's brilliant. You can spend it and you can live a good life. But for me, when I played football, it was just about winning trophies. I was unlucky not to get big. I won trophies, but I didn't win like SPLs. It said didn't play with Celtic. But do you think, Paul? Like you say, do you think is there any message maybe to guys who? Obviously, you played the game, Paul. You've been at Celtic, like you say, maybe most of the time, unless you're really outstanding, you're going to your Larsons went to Man U and all that, and Barcelona. Would you message to maybe even young guys or guys who like Jota's stay and learn your trade and then maybe think about going, because don't really go too quick? I know guys like Gary Hooper, who for me was one of my heroes. He says that he kind of he shouldn't have left. He tried to go for England squad and stuff like that. And other guys have went and left. I think Edwards maybe regrets it now. So would be maybe a message for your point of view, Paul, in terms of that?
Listen, I have this conversation all the time with people. John Hartson's, the Jackie McNamara's and people, even Celtic fans. If I was playing for Glasgow Celtic today and I was on 25 grand or 30 grand a week or 18 or whatever it is that the basic player is, or the middle player to the top player is on, there's no way in this earth that I would leave a club like that for 30 or 40,000 a week. And people say, oh no, I think you would. I'm telling you now, I would not leave it. As you said, you hit the nail on the head. You're winning trophies. You're in one of the biggest clubs in the world, support-wise. You're playing Champions League football every year. You're getting your bonuses. You're living a happy life. You have a fine house in Scotland somewhere. It's a great place to bring your kids up, go to school and all of that sort of stuff. Why would you want to go down to Crystal Palace in London for an extra 12,000 a week, like some players do? And as you say, within that 2 or 3 year span, they're gone. They're playing for the likes of Oldham or Plymouth or somewhere like that. When you could have stayed at Celtic Football Club for the next 10 years, became a legend at the club, and kept your standards at Celtic standards instead of dropping them down to the league that you're going down in London, and sometimes not even getting a game, sitting on the bench. What's the point of collecting 30 grand a week if you're going to be sitting on someone's bench? The forgotten man. You don't want to be a forgotten man. You want to be there at Celtic Football Club, winning league titles, winning, Scottish Cups, playing European football, European nights. I cannot understand why players want to leave a club like Celtic to go down south to that rubbish for an extra few pounds in their pocket. Because over time, the money that you get at Celtic Football Club through bonuses and winning leagues and stuff like that, that's enough money for anybody. And the likes of Jota and all these players, don't get me wrong, super players, Celtic Football Club, doing really well. Management is great. They seem to have things going forward. I guarantee you, any of those players leave Celtic Football Club, within 2 years they'd be forgotten. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, that's a brilliant. I love that passion. I love it.
No, definitely.
I love that because I'm like that as well. You know me, Ryan. I'm like that as well. I love that passion. A great example of that now. People probably commenting, and probably going to think I'm off my chump here, but he's maybe not disappeared in terms of disappeared off the face of the earth, but he's disappeared in terms of football terms. Because he's not on a lot of Celtic fans' lips anymore. And the guy I'm going to speak about is Odsonne Edouard.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say his name before you even said it. Yeah. You know, he was the dog's bollocks at Celtic Football Club. He could have been anything he wanted. League titles, bonuses, 20 grand a week, all of that sort of stuff. Goes to Crystal Palace. Forget about it.
Couple of maybe comments coming in. Here you go, Paul. Paul's goal at Ibrox 1995 made it a better new year than the one we had previously and many years before. So there you go, mate. Just that wee moment of magic, Ryan, changes people's day. You know what it's like? You got to football, mate. Changes your day. It changes your... Another wee one there from Mappy. Thank you, Paul. Hearing it said is great, as we all believe the same. We all believe us. No, I really do think it's unbelievable that it's kind of different for us, Ryan, because we're born into it, mate. Mm-hmm. So, like say, if you're from a foreign country and you're coming here, you don't quite really know the backstory, really, until you're here. And sometimes you're only here for a year or two, especially if you do well and other clubs come calling, and then dangle that carrot in front of you as well. But I just think, like Paul says, some people are just too quick to jump ship, mate. You know, that taxi's ordered to the airport before they've got really get going, mate. And it's a shame because, like Paul said, and I mentioned him, I know you thought he was magnificent as well, Ryan. Odsonne Edouard, mate, what's he doing now? I mean, he'd be lucky he's getting a game of 5 or 6 most weeks for Crystal Palace now.
There's a lot of guys.
He's on 40 grand a week. Do you think he cares?
No, definitely no. But so what we did the other day, counties the caliber, counties medals.
That's the caliber. You can't go into Tesco's and pay for your food with a medal. Mm-hmm. See, there's a flip the two sides of this. You know, these are thinking about, if I get a good 5 years in the Premiership, I'm going to retire. I'll play golf for the rest of it. I'll have a fine big house. Kids will go to school and all of this sort of stuff. And I'll have 2-3 cars in the garden. They actually think they believe that if I stay at Celtic Football Club, I'm not going to have all of this. Rubbish. Yeah. Why would you not have it? You know, why would you not?
I believe, Paul, in life, obviously in life in general, but I think in football terms, if you work hard, you'll get your just rewards. If that means staying at Celtic, I'm agreeing with you, Paul. I totally get it. See, if you're going, for me, it's different. See guys like Messi and they're getting that amount. See, if you're getting that amount of money, I can maybe go, right, I can understand, right? That's a dog box, right? But for, like you said, Paul, for an extra few grand a week, for me, I totally get you playing against your arse. I get all that, right? I get that, right? And you might maybe get a better player. I get that. But you're not going to see, unless guys like West Ham, Leeds, Southampton have miracle a season, Paul, in my opinion, you're not going to be playing European football, like you said. You're not going to get in the big nights. You're not going to get noticed against Barcelona's, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, your Shakhtar's. I know people say the Premier League is the dog's box. For me, I think it's overrated. I think it's full of money. For me, I've said I get a bit of slack, Paul, a while ago on this. I think there's maybe only 2 to 3 clubs bigger than Celtic, and that's probably Man United, I mean down south, Man United, Liverpool, and maybe Arsenal at a push. Maybe at a push, right? But Man City are only big because of money. Chelsea are only big because of money. It's all money. It's no, like you said, Paul, you breathed it, you've loved it, you played in it. The fan base, the history, walking out to Celtic Park on a European night is... I'm a fan, Paul. And see, when I go in my season book, I get my ticket, I walk up to Celtic Park, there's just something about that place. I'm maybe biased, Paul, I don't know, but you walk into Celtic Park and you've been going to the same seat for years and you just go, this place is magical. You just know that you're going to expect a good game. It's home. I should call it home.
Yeah.
I call it home.
I understand that, right? I understand because we have the passion and the love for the club. You grew up with it. It's bred into you. These boys fly in an aeroplane, they land, they play football, they score a few goals, you get a few quid, don't understand the history, don't understand the club. All you want to do is think about the next move out of there to get X, Y, and Z money, and they don't really care. It's, you know, I'm not saying every player. You don't have the European Cup team who was bred Celtic, successful Celtic, then the McStays, the Harts, the Peter Grants, players like that, the Frank McAvennies, the Charlie Nicholsons, they were all sort of born and bred into Celtic Football Club. All right, a lot of people would say they left the club and they done this and they done that. They went off to try something, it didn't work and they came back. But they did understand the club. Mm-hmm. As you say, no disrespect to the likes of the present foreign players that are coming in and past. A lot of them didn't get or understand it because they're only there to play for Celtic Football Club. They don't understand the history. They're getting a wage, they're happy with that, and then they move on. Very seldom you'll have the likes of Larson coming in who really connected with the club and you know, done really well for the football club. The fans loved them. You're not going to get players like that anymore. They're not there. They are not there. And I'm looking at the Celtic team at this moment in time. But don't get me wrong and don't get offensive about this. But if any of those players left to go to the Premier Division, they would be forgotten in 2 years. 1,000,000%. They're not going to go to Premiership and set the world alight. And why would you want to go Championship or Second Division or Third Division over a club like Celtic Football Club? They're in cuckoo land. Cuckoo land.
No, for me, JP, for me, there's only one player who I think is maybe similar to your McStays, and that's probably McGregor, JP. Because the captain, for me, Paul, I think McGregor's outstanding. I think he could easily go into the top four, which I don't think he's ever going to leave Celtic because he is Celtic through and through. He's come out and says, why would he want to leave here? And even guys like Scott Brown stayed here for a long time, could have went elsewhere. They're the guys that know Celtic. They know what it's like to be here. You're kind of, in my opinion, JP, you're privileged to beat Celtic. If you get a contract with Celtic, in my opinion, see if I could play one game in JP, I would be the happiest guy in the world. I've been lucky that I've been lucky that I played in Celtic Park, but I didn't play with Celtic. But imagine playing with Celtic, knowing you've got a contract. It might only be one game, but then you can walk out of that park and say, I played in front of Celtic. I play. Obviously, these days, JP, I know, I think it's Brendan Rodgers that says it. You don't play with Celtic unless you have won our first team games, which I get his point. Right? I get his point. Because some youth players play the odd first team game and they're probably walking about saying that they play with Celtic and stuff like that. On youth players, JP, I think it's something that Paul was speaking about. We spoke about it and you spoke about it on this podcast before. Obviously, Ben Doak's up to the Scotland squad. I think Ben Summers, guys like that. Liam Morrison, who's went to Bayern Munich, they've been called up for the 21s today. Barry Hepburn as well. So, what's your feelings on that, JP? Obviously, he left and he's away to better things, in terms of team wise and the stature wise, in terms of Bayern Munich stuff like that. What do you feel on the youth? I know we've spoken about JP plenty of times. For me, I don't know if you agree with it, Paul, but a lot of people want youth players to come in and play, Paul, right? And if I'll put this one to you, Paul, because you can maybe answer it better. Me and JP have spoken about it. How do you feel about? Because for me, Paul, we're trying to win. Let's be fair. We're trying to go for a treble. You're trying to win doubles, leagues, etc. How, in your opinion, Paul, when do you put these guys in, like your Ben Doakes who left and Morrisons, etc.? When do you feel there's a time to play them? Is it when maybe the league's finished, or is it the event over time? Because in my opinion, Paul, I find it hard, especially now with a Celtic team, and you're trying to win things. When do you think it's the time to bed them in?
Well, like, the last time we spoke, I made a comment to you boys and raised a couple of eyebrows. Young Tierney at Arsenal, he'd be back at Celtic Football Club. No shadow of a doubt, he'd be back to Celtic Football Club, right? Now, he was one of Celtic's best players at the time and moved to Arsenal. And picked up a few injuries, done okay. Is there many better players than Tierney that are at the club at the moment? You say McGregor could go down south. I agree, he's an excellent footballer for Celtic Football Club. He's a great leader, great captain. You go to Premiership, it's a totally different ball game. It sucks you in. Going back to young Doakesy, youngest player to play in an Old Firm derby, and then all of a sudden, Celtic Football Club announced that he's signing for Liverpool for £3 million. £3 million for Ben Doak is, in my opinion, it's a shambles. That kid will be worth, he'll be in the Liverpool first team in the next 2 years, established at maybe 18, 19 years of age, that he'll be worth anything between 50 and 80 million. That's what he's going to be worth. Now, we spoke about a Celtic selling club in our last podcast. I wasn't too sure back then. in the conversation that we had. But to let something like this happen is just outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. And another thing as well in Ireland, the talk in Ireland at the moment is, because I'm in the agency game and I'm with Jackie and I'm working with other agents in London and stuff like that, and young Irish lads now don't want to go to Celtic. They don't want to go.
Is that because of the level between youth to first team, or what's the reason behind that?
What it is, JP, is that these young lads now will be getting $5 and $8 grand a week at Premier Division clubs starting off at the age of 18 because they can't go with the Brexit thing. So as soon as they're 18, they're going away and getting contracts of $5 and $8 grand a week straight away.
Okay.
It'll probably take them 5 years to get $5 to $8 grand a week at Celtic. And before they reach that 5 years, they could be released or moved on again, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So this is what's actually happening. The football is turned into a business now, and money is turning a lot of people's heads. And Celtic always had that policy. They're not going to break that policy of giving these players 60 and 70 grand a week, which is understandable, and they're right to do so. But unfortunately, the way the game has gone, it's turned into a business. These Arabs, like, yeah, we want to sign this young bloke. We'll tell you what we're doing. We're going to sign him because they're not getting him. And then the young bloke sitting on the bench or sitting in the 23s for 2 or 3 years, a little forgotten man, when he could have made 50, 60 appearances for Celtic Football Club and made a name for himself. That's what's happening. They're going away to Germany now. They're going to Italy from Ireland. It used to be England. It used to be Scotland, you know, to get across the water. Now they're going to Germany. They're going to Italy. They're going to Spain. They're going to Turkey. They're bypassing England now. And this is what's happening. And money is turning a lot of heads. And the ones who have to blame for that is a lot of agents. Not all agents, but a majority of the agents are trying to make as much money out of these kids. These agents could have maybe 10 or 12 kids moved on 10 grand a week, probably after getting, 100 grand a kid, 800 grand in the bank for him. Thanks very much. And that's what it is. This is what it's turned into now. It's a business. And a lot of players' heads get turned with money.
Ryan, the many times that we spoke at length in this podcast, and we've said
that's a business as well.
Kids are ill-advised a lot of the times, I know.
Yep.
But a lot of these kids are really ill-advised. And they're told
and
that,
I can tell you this. The best advice young Ben Doak got. Jackie and all the boys would have loved to see him stay at Celtic, but Ben Doak couldn't have a better man looking after him right now. He's a gentleman. He's honest. He's a good worker. And he was a hell of a footballer for Celtic Football Club. People can say what they want, when players leave clubs and do this and do that. But he's a gentleman, and he's been in my home, and he's been over here, and we've been doing little business and talking back and forward. And that young kid couldn't have a better man looking after him. And that's my opinion.
Is it Jackie that's looking after him?
Jackie looks after him, yeah.
Oh, amazing.
I
knew obviously, currently, the current Celtic first team, I knew Jackie, he looks after Greg Taylor as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looked after a few of the lads there. I think, I think he's got 2 or 3 lads there. Now, we've got a lot of young lads coming through in Northern Ireland, and we've got quite a few coming through here in Dublin as well, going to be coming through to Jackie. So
the most recent one you've just got to look at is Johnny Kenny.
Yeah, him, and then you've got the young lad, Sean Moore, over in Cliftonville in Ireland, 16 years of age.
Yeah,
a couple of other lads that broke into.
Celtic had another young lad, he's now at Shamrock Rovers, Liam Butt. Yeah,
he's here.
Yeah, so he's another one that obviously over here didn't make the grade. Now he's went over there to try his hand at. I actually had a friend that played in Ireland for years, Paul. I played football at school with him, Gary Twigg.
Twiggy centre forward, went to Porterdowns at Shamrock Rovers, scored lots of goals. Good finisher.
I went to school with Gary back here in Glasgow, and we played football together with school team and stuff.
Was that remedial classes, JP?
What's that?
Was that the remedial classes? Were you kept behind?
No, mate. No, unfortunately, no. I actually done well for Twiggy. I actually kept him on the straight and narrow. No, I'm only kidding. He done well for me, actually.
Yeah, he's a great bloke. He's a great bloke. Yeah, great bloke. Great bloke.
Sorry, Ryan, on you go.
No, I totally agree with Paul in terms of the youth. I totally agree why I can see why some of them do leave, because I'm very seldom at the moment with this where the Celtic team is. I'm probably thinking, well, I'm on the bench, I'm playing in the lower league, which is no disrespect. I think that's a comment in the
Yeah, I'm going to
here.
come to that. I was going to come to that in
Yeah,
a wee minute. We've got a question for Paul.
actually goes to my comment here. For me, Paul, I find it must be hard. I know the Lowland League is, well, it's no disrespect to these guys playing it because I'm not a professional footballer. They're getting paid to play football. They're playing in that league. But for me, I totally, it goes on to the comment. For me, I'm a big advocate. I was a big advocate for the reserve league because you hear guys like Simon Ferry and saying he played with Paul Lambert, and Paul Lambert teaches them for 90 minutes. He says, look, he says, just watch me for 90 minutes. That's for me, Paul. I think these younger guys would get more benefit. I'm not saying that would happen, but just say McGregor's out injured and he's got to play. Just say we're playing Hearts on Saturday, right? He's got to play on Thursday, get 90 minutes to play. That I ain't playing McGregor in a reserve game with these youth guys. He could help them and stuff. I'm not saying McGregor, but that's just a scenario. I think these guys, Paul, would get more help and maybe develop more with playing with reserve players who maybe can't play in the first team or they're not really getting game time, I think. And then they're playing against reserve players and they're playing against guys who are playing the first team. I think, Paul, that would develop them better than the Lonely because I don't feel they're getting they're not playing against these athletes, they're not playing against the full-time people, they're not playing against the guys who are playing against Celtic, Rangers, Hearts and the first team, maybe the odd youth player. But for me, Paul, I think Celtic, I know the reserve league is getting back, but Celtic aren't joining it. But for me, Paul, on you go.
No, it's just the question we've got for you, Paul, is so it's from John. He says, what does Paul think of us not having the reserve league here anymore? What's your views on that, mate?
I think it's the same here. Do you know, just touching off your question here, but I will get back to it because it actually accumulates into what you're going on about. In Ireland at the moment, after under 19s league, there's no 21s and there's no 23s. So if a young kid hasn't made it into the first team by he's 19 at a football club here in Ireland, he's released. Ooh. Right? Now, going back to the point, which is I find scandalous, going back to the point of having reserve football. When I played, I was playing in Oxford's reserve team, right? So some of our youth team would have been good enough to make up the reserve team, if that makes sense, right? But as you say then, you'd have Davy Langan coming back from injury, Trevor Hibbert, Steve Foster, Ray Houghton, John Aldrich playing 20 minutes, a half an hour, or getting 60 minutes under their belt so they get ready for the first team. And what you just touched on there, you cannot buy that experience playing alongside these boys as a young lad to learn off them. You cannot buy that. It's gold. And I think the quicker they bring the reserve league back and have the senior players who are injured, that are coming back from injury, or whether it's a new player signing for the club to get him a couple of games under his belt to play in the reserves. And all the while, you're helping all them young youth players that are on the fringe of getting into the reserves and into the first team. So the answer to your question is the quicker they bring back the reserve league, the better. So these young kids can be properly coached and playing alongside quality, more so than playing alongside average players where you're not going to learn anything. And I just think if you say playing the likes of alongside the Scott Brown, imagine me as a 15-year-old or 16-year-old coming along and playing on reserve football and Scott Brown standing beside me and he's saying to me, hey, top professional. No money can buy that. No money.
No, for me, JP, I totally agree with Paul. Agree with him?
Yeah, 100%. Yep, definitely. I also think that, we spoke to Alan Thompson as well on here, and Alan actually highlighted that he used to like that, Ryan, didn't he? He says he used to like playing.
He would have done it at Newcastle.
He done it up here as well. He done it obviously here when he was injured for Celtic, and he done it in Newcastle as well. And I think he mentioned that even in Aston Villa when he was there, he got injured. He came back from an injury. He played some reserve team football, and again he says he used to thrive on that non-time when he was coming back from injury, but he was also getting some sort of game time. And it was always very competitive as well. So it wasn't just you were going in and playing 5-a-sides with your mates. You were going in and it was the same graft as what you need to do at senior level. But we've got a couple of comments coming in and they're just alluding to basically the Lowland League. Basically, the views are that, the Lowland League is farcical. And there's no progression there. So if the Celtic B were to win that league, they
I
then
can't
go into the next part of the pyramid system, and it doesn't have any incentive at the end. And then there's obviously other comments coming through saying that obviously they need somewhere to play, they need somewhere to develop. But we've spoke at length on here, Paul, and our opinion is that we just think the level between the Celtic B team to the Celtic first team is just a humongous jump. Yeah, it's totally night and day.
For me,
and
it's
that's
a massive, massive gulf.
It's a gulf between it, and that's why
But-
you're finding it really hard to see a proper youth player going to then go on and establish himself in the first team.
How it was, JP, you signed as a schoolboy, then you became a youth player, then you became a top youth player. So when you became a top youth player, then you were on the fringe of the reserves. When you were doing well in the reserves, you became on the fringe of the first team. So it's gradual steps. Now you're asking you're asking players who are probably never going to get into Celtic's first team. You're going to have fringe players who are going to be stretched a little bit too much to make that jump into the first team, and that may look very ordinary. I'm just going to throw this at you. Rudy Vata's son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've watched Rudy Vata's son in Celtic's first team. I've watched him in the reserves and stuff like that. Rocco. Even that step for Rocco, who has a bit of quality and has a bit about him, even that step from the B to the first team, it's a massive, massive step. And I don't think many young players at Celtic are going to make that step. I really don't. Unless they bring back reserve team football and have the youth system gradually going into the reserves and the reserves gradually going into the first team. And you only move these steps on when players are ready mentally and physically to make that transition to play in the first team at a consistent level. If you don't do it that way, you're going to stretch them and they won't get that game time because they become ordinary. And then they become disillusioned a little bit and the confidence drops, and then it's a big hole to get out of to try and get into that first team. And I think he's perfectly right in what he's saying, and it's a valid point and it's a great point. The step is too far. You need to have that gradual youth team into the resis and into the first team. And I can't understand for the life of me why they ever stopped that. Because when I was in England, I was playing against the likes of Steve Perryman, Glenn Hoddle, Ozzy Ardelius, Chris Waddle, all these lads coming back to playing from injuries, playing in Spurs' reserve side, Ray Clemens in goal and people like that. And players who are dropping out of the first team are getting game time with the reserves, and people who are progressing are going into the reserves, and you have a mixture of everything. And that's how I got my experience and what gave me my trade, basically, of playing alongside these players. And not also playing alongside players, playing against players who are quality. To get you prepared to play against quality when you step up to the first team. Yeah. And that's so,
That is it. It's so true, Ryan, isn't it? Because playing against older heads when you're young, it's only going to steady you in a great path, mate, moving forward. Because then you need to be then physically ready to go on against these guys.
Mentally.
Mentally, physically, you need to know, especially playing for Celtic, right? It's all right playing a youth game when you're playing at Airdrie Stadium with hardly any fans. See if you're a young boy and you're a wee timid thing and things start annoying you quite easily and you lose your mind in a game. Ryan, if you can't handle a couple of guys at the side of the park booing you and shouting abuse at you, mate, you're not going to handle 60,000 at Celtic Park booing you if you do something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Or possibly booing or getting on your back. Like last night was a great example. Young Tony Ralston, he just came back from injury. He had a couple of bad touches early doors in the game, and a lot of the crowd, sections of the crowd, go on his back, and it played on. You could see it creeping into his game because he started to get a bit hesitant and started playing safe rather than doing what he normally does and taking the ball and moving forward with it. So he started playing safe and looking for the easier ball and just came back to the goalie all the time with the ball. And that just
what happened there, JP? Some of the players are above the level of B, right? Yeah. And they're comfortable. They're comfortable when they're playing, and they're not playing with high intensity. And they become a little bit complacent. And then when they're asked to step up into the first team, they're still in that brain mode. They're still in that mode in their own heads that they have this time. They can have so many touches, and all of a sudden, bang, they're getting clattered. Yeah. Welcome back to the first team. And it's very hard to flip that switch. It takes you a couple of weeks to readjust. And if you're playing a standard below you for long enough, you become that standard. Mm-hmm. You've got no drive to, you become comfortable, and you're great. You put 3 balls in the box, we score off 2, you bend a free kick in the top corner, you think your job is done. When you step back up into that first team, that's a whole different ball game.
I'm actually glad, JP, that Paul said it, because it's everything we've spoken about for months. In terms of the gap, in terms of, because for me, like a lot of Celtic fans, Paul will say, "Oh, this guy's good, give him a chance." I'm thinking, but when they go and step up, I totally get they've got to get a chance. I get that, but it's when you bed them in. But guys like Vatar and Ben Summers, they're very good at that level, like you're saying. But when they go up, they're then going to play against guys who are hard and pathetic. Even guys like St Johnstone, Ross County, Aberdeen, they might not be fabulous players, but at that level, to jump up and play against them, it's still quick, it's still physical, I'm totally agreeing with you, Potts.
It's because they become complacent at the level that they're playing at and comfortable, and they're the big fish in the little pond. And
it's like a shock to the system, isn't
it? But it's like... I'll give you an example. It's like when players go away to England or Scotland and they come back and they want to play League of Ireland, yeah? Well, for the first maybe 5 or 6 weeks, they come back and play League of Ireland, and people are saying, well, what's really happened to this guy? Like, what's gone wrong? He's gone from there to there, and he's not even good enough for League of Ireland. Well, I tell you why. It's because they come home and they think League of Ireland is easy. But when they actually realise and get in and start playing games, they're like, hold on a minute. This is not as easy as I thought. Now, if they don't click that switch and get themselves into game mode and train the way they should be training and play the way they should be playing, they will be forgotten fairly quickly, because then they won't be good enough for League of Ireland. Never mind from what they've come from. And it's all about the mental side of the game and the physicality and stuff like that. If you're not mentally strong and mentally right to prepare yourself to go to war, as Roy Keane says in a game, you're going to become ordinary. You're going to be sluggish. You're going to get hit in tackles. Your passing will go. Everything goes. Your confidence goes. When confidence goes, it takes you a few weeks to get it back. And with young kids, that's when you need to have the reserve league to say, hold on a minute, kid. You've done really well in them 4 or 5 games in the first team. I can see you slipping a little bit. Go and have 3 or 4 in the resis. Get your little spark back, and then we'll step you back up. If you don't have that reserve league, too much of a gap.
I think what Ange's trying to... he's trying to apply just now. He's trying to apply that pathway, but missing out on the reserve team football. So what he's doing, and I know Ange's changed it quite a bit from previous managers to him, is he's got these kids like Rocco Vata and Ben Summers and the big boy Bosun Lowell, who they've brought up from Watford. Who obviously he's Irish as well. So, and Rocco, he's going to play for Ireland. One of the other Celtic players is ready to play for Ireland as well, Mikey Johnson. He's just switched allegiances as well.
Well, at this moment in time, do you have to be exceptional to play for Ireland?
Yeah, well, that's it, because they're developing really well under Stephen
at the moment, JP. The level that Ireland is at the moment, I could probably still play. We're way off as a country as well. So if these players are, I tell you, if they're playing a Celtic football club and people are saying they should be in the Celtics first team, waiting to come and play. You think the gap between the B into Celtics first team is that? Yeah. Well, what makes you think these lads are going to be going from B to international? That's even a bigger gap. Yeah. You can't be putting these kids in these international games. You just can't.
But they're putting, obviously, the Rocco Vata and stuff, they're playing, like guys like that, they're playing with the Irish, like, kind of B squad as well, the under-21s, aren't they? They're not in the kind of first team setup. Whereas Mikey Johnson's probably going to be a tad different, because Mikey's playing first team football over in Victoria Guimarães just now, out on loan over there. So, and if he's switching allegiances, which he's just got clearance for, yesterday it was confirmed. So, I would picture Mikey, because Mikey's 23, 24 now. I would imagine Mikey's too old to play with the 21, so he's going to need to play with the first team should he be called upon. But that's another thing. That's another one that we spoke about, Paul, on here. Yeah. I mean, Ryan, because
I'm good friends with Stephen Kenny. I've just been texting him this evening, and Stephen, I think, has played, since he's took over as manager, I think he's played 70 different players.
That's a lot, isn't it?
70 different players. And their next game is France at home. Who's your best 11? You know,
just stick 10 guys on Mbappe and hope for the best.
Yeah. Just hope he doesn't turn up or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But look at it, lads. It's like everything else.
I think he's about right. I think because Terry Henry's not out to handball the ball anymore.
I'm not sure someone else will handball it anyway. But yeah, look, you're right in what you're saying. The subject you brought up is you can talk about it all night, the gap between the B and the first team, and people expecting players to come, setting the B League alight and all of that sort of stuff. Well, if people think the first team standard is not that great in Scotland or whatever, what makes them think that a player coming from the B is going to really set the first team alight unless you're exceptional? Yeah. Do we have that exceptional young footballer? We did in Ben Doak. He excites you. Every time he gets on the ball, he excites you. He was passionate. He's strong. Really wanted it. Did he want to sit back at Celtic Football Club and play in the B League for maybe 10 games and maybe get 3 or 4 games in the first team every year? Or
he only got in the first team because the threat of him moving on was there, I think. Mm-hmm. And that's Ange kind of tried. It was as if Ange, it was like a token from Ange to say, here's what you can have if you stay here. But in my opinion, Paul, I just think that chance came along too late for young Ben, and Ben's head was already turned and probably made up elsewhere. Yeah. Because I think why not? Why, if you've seen that ability in him, you
do it earlier.
Over the club. Why not do it earlier? Why wait till the threat there is of moving on? Because we've lost good players. I mean, look at the boy Liam Morrison. You've got Barry Hepburn. Both of those boys are at Bayern Munich just now. Mikey Johnson's lost his confidence and just put him out on loan for that simple fact to try and get that, as you said, instead of putting him at the Resis, he's had to now put him out on loan to try and get that spark back off him. Because Ange,
what do you think is wrong? What do you think is wrong then? And as a whole, at the club with young players that are probably that they're not being given that chance before their head is turned. They're not given that chance before they become disillusioned and think they're not going to get into the first team.
Yeah.
Is it a fact that we're afraid of losing, or is it a fact of, as you touched on the subject earlier on, when is it a good time to give these boys a chance?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a Scottish mentality, Paul, and it's especially young Scottish lads. I think it's we don't believe enough in our own product, and we don't sell our own product high enough. Because me and Ryan spoke about this as well, and in terms of the league and stuff like that, we don't promote our league the way you see other leagues being promoted. And say, our league shouldn't be dependent on Viaplay or Setanta or BT Sport or Sky, and that's no disrespect to these big companies. We should have an SPFL TV that all the Scottish. It's not just Celtic fans that are in Scotland. You've got Falkirk fans, Dunfermline fans. So you've got an array of clubs here. So we should have our own TV subscription option here in our own backyard to then let fans subscribe to that. Because a lot of fans can't make away days. And the way now it works, Paul, you put into a ballot. And not every time are you going to be successful for that.
Yeah.
And all the ones that do get to the away games is all people that know people that know people that know people that looked after somebody's budget when they went on holiday. That's just, I know you're laughing, Ryan, but that's the way it works too. That's,
I was laughing about the budget bit.
Somebody took the bins out for somebody, and that's, they owe you a favour and something. So that's the way it is. And that's what's wrong. We just don't sell ourselves.
No, you just throw bolts, all right.
We don't.
The thing is as well, though, JP, you have this thing called the fire stick now.
The dodgy box, as Ryan calls it.
I hope nobody from Sky is watching. I'm just saying, you got Celtic TV for free. You've got all the Celtic games.
We don't break the rules on here. We don't get.
I only use it for Netflix, I swear.
Aye. I only use it when I go to Ryan's house.
I've not got a TV license. I don't watch TV.
You're going to bring all sorts of trouble with your daughter, mate. That's you.
You still got a black and white TV, pal. Nothing goes into the back of that. You're hanging on top of the telly.
The only highlights of football he sees nowadays, Paul, was when he watches reruns, his videotapes for Quincy Beautiful.
Aye. No, but
Okay, do you know
obviously,
what we must do, boys? When I'm over in Scotland, we must meet up and we'll have a coffee and maybe go to a game together or something. We'll hook up and do something. If you want me to do something when I come to Scotland or like that, I can do a little meet and greet with you or whatever you want to do. To help you out, I'll do it. Yeah.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. No, superb.
obviously on that as well, Paul, last wee bit of the pod, we'll obviously chat about Celtic. What's your opinions on, since the last time we spoke, how do you think of the manager, the players? Obviously, for the outset, you're not in Glasgow and stuff. How do you see Celtic going forward, and how do you see Celtic now? Because for me, Paul, me and JP have spoke about in this podcast for months and months. It is unrestricted view. We tell the truth and what we see. And in my opinion, Celtic are far ahead in every department. We're 9 points clear, 1,000+ goals ahead. We're just in every department right now, Paul. Everything's very, very rosy in the garden. We're all doing well. What's your thoughts on the manager and the players and the way things are going?
Amazing. Just what you've said there. You know, we're so far ahead. I can't see Rangers touching us in the next few years anyway, if they're ever going to touch us again. But you never know. Stranger things have happened in around football clubs. Managers come and go. I do hope that his head doesn't get turned. And move on like other managers have done in the past. What I found very extraordinary is that the amount of goals that they've scored under them in 100 games, over 200 goals, it's just extraordinary. It's amazing, and it's a compliment to the players that he's brought into the club, and they're just a credit to the club at the moment, and may well continue. I think he's a fabulous manager. I think he's straight talker. I think he's no bullshit, no airs or graces. Players know what's expected of them, and I'm sure if you don't do it, he will let them know about it.
Just a wee quick question, Paul, before we let you go, mate. Another one for John. He says, does Paul think Irish playing summer football has coincided with them getting better results in European football?
Yeah, I think so. But, obviously with the same weather as yourselves, the weather over here is atrocious sometimes in games, and the pitches would be, destroyed, and you probably wouldn't get the quality that you're looking for. I think since summer football has come in with the stadiums getting better here in Ireland, and the standard getting much better, the fitness and the professionalism coming into the game, the pitches are in great nick, and you see better football, and long may it continue. Attendances are up very, very high. There's a lot of games now being sold out at the likes of Bows and Pats and Shells, and Damien Duff, young managers coming into the game as well. So, yeah, it's looking healthier than it has been over the last few years. And as I say, long may it continue and get these young managers into the league and start promoting football in Ireland again is the best we can, and try and keep our young players for as long as we can, and don't be giving them over to the likes of Scotland and Italy and all these sort of places and getting their heads turned. But look, you can't stop a player from moving on if he has that bit of quality about him and he wants to better himself. Shake his hand and let him go. Amazing.
Paul, I think we're seriously going to need to do a part 3 of this, mate. I could talk to you all night about things here, and there's lots of stuff that's now flushing back into my head that I've not been able to say to you tonight, but we'll maybe need to do it again, mate. But
there's no problem.
I want to thank you again, mate, for joining us again and taking your time to come on and speak to 2 guys for East End of Glasgow, because we love doing this, and we love chatting to you guys, and we love kind of finding out what it was like when you guys played the game, and what we just find it really intriguing and very interesting. Me and Ryan never made it to the top of the game, so we want to. You lived the dream, mate. You scored one of the best goals I've seen at Ibrox. So, the outside of your boot, not many players can do that. I don't even think Messi. I think Messi would be proud of that in these days, mate. But so again, I want to thank you for coming on. Everybody else that's commented in, guys, I'm sorry I couldn't get through everybody's comments because there's just far too many, and obviously when we're chatting, we just get carried away in conversation and we can't get everybody's comments up, but we do see them. So I don't want you to think that you're being ignored, because that's not the case. Please, guys, if anybody's new to the channel as well, please hit the wee bell and the subscribe button. All that does is basically give you a notification when the page goes live. And any time that you'll get to see my big handsome face, Ryan's wee handsome face, and maybe even somebody like Paul coming on to have a chat with us now and again.
And my handsome face as well, JP.
and
Don't
his-
just mention your handsome
oh
face.
no,
Go, don't
again,
mind.
mate, because you're the guest, I was building you up there, you know. So that's
And
kind of.
by the way, right, I haven't put that much weight on. Just my face is too close to the phone. That's all.
No,
I'm actually
that's
like
it,
that.
mate. No. I've got to have a shower with frosted glass, mate, but we'll not go there. That's totally different. Saying that, the missus says it works good. I look like Robbie Williams for it, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But no, like I says, everybody, thanks very much for joining us tonight on a Thursday night. I know it can't be easy. Some people might want to watch European football instead of listening to guys having a chat about football, but we love doing this. By the way, hitting the subscribe button is totally free of charge. We don't charge any money for this at all. So please hit that if you're new to, if you like the content as well. Anybody also that is with the YouTube channel, there is a section in the YouTube channel called the community. Any updates regarding the channel will be on there. The channel and myself and Ryan are on all social media platforms. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Ryan's got another couple of wee apps on his phone, but I can't display them at this time at night, so we'll not go there. And as I say, anybody that's want to have a chat with us, maybe feeling down that day, maybe, not feeling at yourself, not feeling good about yourself that day, please don't hesitate to get in contact. There's myself and Ryan's Twitter handles as well, in case anybody wants to reach out to us. Because I know what it's like sometimes when you're sitting there and you just don't want to talk, but you do want to talk, if you know what I mean. And it's kind of hard, and sometimes it's easier to speak to somebody that's a familiar face to you as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out. It has happened already, and myself and Ryan are totally friendly. We'll get back to you right away because we've got access with our phones at all times. But guys,
that's very good, Ian, and that's very important, lads. And it's getting to the stage now where the pandemic and all that sort of stuff, and a lot of people are still suffering financially and all the things that are going on. And I think it's very important that people talk. If we can't talk to us, talk to someone else. And mind yourselves, look after yourselves. If you need me to come to Glasgow to do anything, there's no problem. Meet and greet, a couple of points, have a chat, whatever I can do for you, let me know. Other than that, thanks for having me on, and I enjoy the company.
Paul. Thanks for
very welcome,
Paul.
Enjoyed your company, mate. And
no problem, lads. Anytime, give me a shout, JP.
No worries. Everyone else, a massive hail from myself.
Hail from me.
And hail from me.
Sounded like the two Ronnies there, didn't we? Or the three Ronnies, as I say. No, guys, enjoy the rest of your nights, and thank you very much.
Take care, Paul. Cheers.
Cheers.
God bless, lads. Take care. See you. Bye-bye.
A big milestone for the captain as well. Considering obviously where we were a wee while ago, didn't know who the captain was going to be. A few, including myself, wasn't sure about McGregor. I was kind of saying Julian and all that, and you weren't really sure who was going to come in as manager to start off with, and then who would be the captain. Obviously, because let's be fair, anybody who follows Scott Brown, it's always going to be a hard task to follow the way he was as a person, as a player, and as a captain.
Good play again by Collins. The angle ball, the right across, the chance is on for the equaliser! And Celtic have equalised!